Welcome everyone. It is Fish Friday today. We're going to do a teriyaki salmon, coconut rice, and roasted asparagus tonight. I've spent most of the day doing all kinds of different things, and it's now after 6 o'clock, and we want to do something that's pretty quick. So hopefully this whole thing's done in 25 minutes. That's the goal here. Let's see, 6:10 now. See if we can be done at 6:35. You know what? Let's give ourselves to 6:40 to be safe. So here we go. We're going to start things off with the rice. We're going to do this pretty quickly. We're going to get the pot preheated. There we go. Off it goes. The other thing I'm going to do here to make our coconut rice is I have coconut milk. I have flaked coconut. I'm going to save this until the very end. This will be in the finish with a little bit of parsley. And you can use jasmine rice. That's a great thing to use. Otherwise, you can use extra long enriched rice. That's totally fine. We know that we're going to need to get water heated up, so I'm going to do that now to try and keep us moving. So because I'm using an entire can of coconut rice, I'm probably going to go with about 2 cups of dry rice. It's going to be my guess, so I'm going to just start water heating in the pan. I have no idea how much that is, but I'll show you what we're going to do. So I'm going to fill this guy back up. The other thing we're going to do is cook our salmon skin side up to get a crispy skin. So I'm filling our filtered water back up here. So if you just absolutely don't want to even deal with salmon skin, I would highly recommend that if you still have the skin on, that you leave it on, cook it skin side down, and then after it's done cooking, you can go right under with a spatula, let the skin stick to the baking sheet, and it'll come off really easily. We're gonna try, Carrie just asked, is basmati? Absolutely, but basmati is great to use for this because it's really thin and it'll cook really well. You might just wanna make sure that you cook it a little less than what we're doing here. So this water is preheating. I'm gonna open up the can of coconut milk that we have. I'm gonna use this entire can. If I'm doing less than 2 cups of rice, I'd probably like a half a can for 1 cup. We want to make sure that we're not too soupy, and we want the rice to have plenty of water and liquid to be able to soak up to hydrate it. So coconut milk, usually in a can, ends up pretty solid on the top, and a lot of that water's down underneath. Coconut milk is going to go right into the pan. I'm going to get a small rubber spatula here. Coconut milk is going to go right in with the water right now. Make sure all that coconut water gets in there, and then I'm going to take the solids that form on the top of the can, and that's going to go in as well. This is going to give it a chance to basically dissolve in the water. We're doing all of this before the rice goes in. We're trying to warm this up too, because the rice is going to take 20-21 minutes to cook. So off that goes, water's heating. I'm going to have the rice ready to go, so I'm going to get a bowl off to the side. Because if we're doing one of these meals with a time limit, we want to make sure that we have everything ready to go the second that the water's ready. So this is something I usually eyeball, but I'm going to use a measuring cup here. I guess I'll bring you down. Whatever. So here's our rice. Here's our measuring cup. 1 and 2. All right, 2 cups of rice. That will give us probably 7-8 servings. I mean, you can really go 1/4 cup. Coconut rice tends to be a little more popular because it has that sweetness. So maybe people end up picking out a little bit more, and we'll call it servings for 6 people. But I'd say as a normal rule, a 1/4 cup of dry rice is good for 1 person, no problem. So the other things I'm going to have while this water's getting warm are the parts for the teriyaki sauce that I'm going to make. So for that, I'm using soy sauce or cocoa aminos. So I'm going to use this, so this will make it paleo friendly. Going to use some honey, orange juice, I'm going to fresh squeeze it, garlic, I'm going to grate the garlic in, and a little bit of ginger that I've already peeled, and I'm going to grate right in. To thicken the sauce and make it a glaze that we're going to brush on the salmon, you can use flour, or you can use cornstarch, or you can use tapioca starch if you're really trying to stay with that paleo thing. I'm not that familiar with the whole paleo or gluten-free, but I think the cornstarch, I know it's gluten-free. I don't know how paleo-friendly it is, though, because of the, well, there's no sugars in here, no added sugars. So if you're a paleo person, you would know whether or not this is good. But that's what we'll use to thicken up the sauce today. The other thing I'm going to do is, that might be unusual, I've never done it before, it's just kind of jumped to me in my head. We're going to do the salmon skin side up under the broiler, and I'm going to cook the salmon on top of a sliced onion. And the idea here is that the onion's going to heat up, and that a lot of those onion fumes are going to come up and penetrate the salmon, helping just flavor a little more. And then when we top with the teriyaki sauce, it should be this really neat, elegant, not fishy at all taste that you get out of it. Without the onion, I think the bottom of the salmon could end up sticking to the pan, and we could end up getting a little fishy too. So we're trying to avoid all that, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully it works. In theory, it's good. So the water's heating here. I'm going to end up adding a little bit more water once I add the rice in, but right now I'm just trying to get all of this up to temperature. I'm going to grab a fork, just a little fork, and make sure that we don't have any solids left from this coconut milk. It smells awesome. All right. So I probably have another minute or so before this is done. The other thing I'll add to this mixture here is salt, but I'm going to wait until I add all the water in before I add any salt, because I really want to kind of base the salt off of the water that I have in, as opposed to the coconut milk that I have in. So I'll probably go what I'd call was 2 cups of rice, maybe 2 cups of water. Normally you want to go 2 cups of liquid to 1 cup of solid rice here. We already have 16 ounces, I believe it was, of that coconut milk. So there's 2 cups right there. 2 cups of water, 2 cups of coconut milk, and the rice, and we're golden. So that's there. It's already boiling, so off the rice goes right in. I'm going to now add a little bit more water. I'm going to use a fork and stir it. I don't want any of the rice sticking to the side of the pot here right now. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball and get to where I think we're at 4 total cups of liquid. If you want to be more exact, you totally can. If I were someone using a measuring cup at this point, I would go a little bit under. And since I'm at 2 cups of rice, I'd probably go 3.5 cups of liquid, because you can always add more liquid in. But once you have too much, it's so painstaking to have to either pour anything off or sit and let it all evaporate. And with this coconut milk in here, I don't want to pour anything off, because I want to keep that concentrated flavor. So there it is. We're going to add a little bit of salt. Hey, Dave Hansen, holy cow, a blast from the past. Dave, that's great to see you on here. All right, so a little bit of kosher salt's going to go in. So I'm just going to go like a heavy pinch and a half, I'm going to call it. I don't want it over salted, but I want all of that flavor to come out. And the other thing I'm going to do is add a little natural sweetness here when I add this coconut in at the end. I'm probably going to toast it just a minute in the oven, and then I may add some parsley, because that's what we have for freshness. Green onion would be a great addition too, but we don't have any of that. So it is what it is. Okay, so this is going. I am just about up to boil. As soon as I get to boiling, I'm going to turn this down, put it on a burner that's even a little lower than this one. So I'm going to get that one ready. Here it goes. And now this burner is what I'm going to make the teriyaki sauce in. Notice I haven't even gotten to the salmon yet. Salmon cooks so super quick. It's a non-issue. All right, so let's bring you down to the cutting board. So I have some honey here, this cocoa aminos. This is going to be the first thing I put in here. Soy sauce works great. This is from coconut. Yeah, so here we go. So I would call it just depends on how much sauce you want, but you want basically 2 parts of the cocoa aminos or soy sauce to 1 part of orange juice. You can use store-bought orange juice, that's no problem. but you just kind of want to balance it that way. That's usually going to give you the right amount of tanginess and acid to the salt level in here. The other thing is, really be careful if you use store-bought juice that you'd have something with no additives. You don't want any vitamins added, any sugars added, because that'll really mess with everything here. So I'm gonna take this lid off because I hate this shaker thing. I'm gonna go eyeball. Let's call this a. No, we'll call it a half a cup of this cocoa aminos. 10 ounces, 4 ounces. Yeah, I think we're probably about a half a cup. So that's a good eyeball. Next thing I'm gonna do is cut into what I feel like the ripest orange is. Well, natural sugar is not a bad thing. And I'm going to juice the orange. If you have an orange juicer, one of those little handheld devices, that's great. But I'm just going to squeeze it right in. If seeds go in, no problem. I'll just take them out. But I don't see any seeds in these oranges. Navel oranges typically have less seeds. Valencia oranges have more. Navel oranges are usually, at least here in California, seasonally right now, where Valencia oranges would be more summertime. So there's one orange. I'm going to keep going because I don't feel like we're at that quarter cup yet. Or sorry, eighth of a cup. So at this point, you can always do the taste it. And what you're looking for, because we didn't taste this orange before, right? So what we're looking for is a good balance of salt to acid. I'm going to turn this heat on, but I'm going to taste this cold. So texture-wise, it looks right. Consistency-wise, because we have definitely heavier cocoa aminos or soy to orange. I get the acid that comes through. I'm going to add just a little bit more orange juice, though. I don't want the orange juice to overpower the saltiness, because that's kind of the whole base flavor of the soy sauce is that salty base. So that is done. I'm going to bring you back up a little bit. So now I have my handy-dandy microplane. So this guy is really cool. You can use it to grate cheese. You can use it to grate vegetables. I mean, this is like one of the essential chef things, and it's only like 25, 30 bucks. They're not super expensive. So I'm going to take some garlic, and I'm going to grate it right in. So the nice part with this is it makes it pretty fine. We're making just almost a paste here with this garlic being grated in by this microplane. I'm trying to overpower it. All of the liquid that's in the garlic is coming out, and that paste is on the other side. So you have to kind of bang it down because it wants to stick. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. Let me grate a little bit more, and then I'll show you what it looks like underneath the microplane. Depending on your comfort level with garlic, you can put more or less cloves. You can see the garlic sticking right underneath here. And that garlic, you're just going to want to tap down into the pot. So I did one clove there. I'm going to go at least one more clove. That's going to go right on here. You want to be careful when you're grating not to get your finger in there, because it will take part of your finger off if you're not super careful. So what I like to do is actually use my nails and kind of hold it in and pinch. And then if you end up it kind of gives you a little warning here. So when you're using your nails, instead of grating here, it's going to get closer to right down here, and you'll know when you're close. And just make sure your knuckles don't go over. If you're really skittish about any of this stuff, you can, here, I'll show you. You can take a fork and stick it in. You can grate it that way. It's just that nails on a chalkboard sound that you get when the fork ends up hitting this guy. The other thing I lose a little bit of is the amount of pressure I can put, because it ends up sliding up the fork. All right, so I'm going to finish this guy, number 2. Happy with that. It's starting to come to a little bit of a simmer, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. And now a super important part is the ginger. Ginger's gonna grate in here. It is super powerful, so I do not want to overdo it here, but I want to have that aromatic quality that it brings. All right, so at this point, before I do anything else, I'm gonna get a spoon, I'm gonna give it a stir. I can smell the ginger. I don't necessarily smell too much of the garlic. I do not wanna add any salt to this at all because that soy or cocoa aminos is already going to be super salty. So just be careful because it's gonna be warm. We wanna have it heated. So we had one taste where it wasn't heated. Now we have this one where it is, and I don't know if I can tilt this enough without spilling on myself. You can see the pieces of garlic are cooking and the ginger's just kind of opening up. I get orange, I get saltiness, I get a little hint of garlic. The ginger's there, but I think I'd like it a little bit more pronounced. So I'm gonna keep going on ginger. Pretty happy with that. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is sweeten it. And I like natural sweeteners instead of sugar, and honey is a great one. Molasses wouldn't be a bad thing if you have it. But I think for this, especially after using that orange juice, the honey is going to be the best thing. So this honey is starting to crystallize because it's pretty cold in our kitchen. So it's going to take a minute to get down. That's coming. It's coming slowly but surely. So what I want to do is put, based on what I did here, probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons. That should be enough to sweeten it. I don't want to do much more than that because then the honey starts to take over. We're getting there. We're getting this honey down. Yep, it's almost there. So honey's something you don't keep in the fridge because it definitely crystallizes and then it's almost impossible. Kind of like you wouldn't put oil in your fridge because of the same thing, especially like olive oil. Here it comes. So now we have about, call that 2 tablespoons right there probably. So that'll go in. And that's it. That's the sauce. Now, how thick do we want the sauce to be? That's where the cornstarch will come in. But this is all the flavor components should be in here, and they'll just kind of sit and do their thing. I'm gonna babysit it just a little bit. I'll stir it around, whatever. Next part, asparagus. I still have not gotten to the salmon yet, right? Crazy. So let's grab the asparagus. So here's our bunch of asparagus. I've not done anything to it. This is straight from the grocery store. Still has the rubber bands on. First thing I'm gonna do, wash the asparagus. Always, 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 always wash your vegetables. Wash your vegetables. Don't ever assume that it's done for you at the store. Those little misters that they use, do not wash them. When can you not wash your vegetables? Yes, that's right, when they're pre-packaged, pre-washed. Those are fine. This, when can you not wash it? Never, never, ever, ever. Always wash them. Washed asparagus. Now look at this. That is really unappealing. It's dried out ends of asparagus. We don't want to eat that. That would be like eating a tree trunk. So we're going to cut that right off. So I'm going to bring it down. And you might think, oh, you know what? I'm just going to cut this much off and that'll be fine. I'm getting all those ends off. Well, guess what? I'll pick one random one. That is still super tough and fibrous. I don't want to eat that. I promise it's not too wasteful, but I'm going to go all the way up to here. Then I'm going to inspect and pull through. And I'm going to look for any of the asparagus, especially if it's green asparagus. I'm going to look for any pieces that are white. Obviously, a white asparagus, you wouldn't do the same thing. But here's my giveaway. Uh-oh, this guy has a little bit of white on it still. See if I can show you that angle. So I'm going to take him and say, off with your head. Gone. Now I'm happy with all of our asparagus. All of our tips are here. I'm going to grab a sheet pan, and the asparagus is going to go right on it. We're going to spread it out. We're not looking to steam the asparagus. I do not want it to get soggy and nasty. I want it to have a crunch to it because of the roasted quality that we're going to try and put on this. So we're going to take it, we're going to spread it all out. If we can get to single layer, that would be great. When you're doing this, you want to look through all of the asparagus. Here's a piece. Guess what? I just found that. That's gone. I'm not using it. I just found another one. I don't like that one. That's gone. You can be picky here. Okay, I'm happy with everything else. That's all on there. What comes next? Right in the oven, right? Yes, olive oil. Here we go. It's going on. We're going to drizzle it on the asparagus. If you have a rectangular Pyrex, you're welcome to use that for the asparagus. The one thing I would caution is that you don't put too much olive oil in it because you want to not deep fry it. You want to just kind of get this roasted flavor out of it. Next thing I'm going to do, kosher salt. Love my kosher salt. That is going all over it. Last thing I'm going to do, black pepper. Other things you can do with this type of preparation are you can put balsamic vinegar, a balsamic glaze afterwards. You can put red wine vinegar. You can put Parmesan cheese on it. Because we're doing a sweet teriyaki sauce that already should be balanced with some acid, and we have that coconut rice. The only thing I would do to this, maybe if I thought my kids would like it, is put maybe some red chili flake. They don't like it, so we're going to leave it off. We can always add that at the end. You could do the same with your teriyaki sauce as well. All right, so oven is at 425 right now. It's going right in, middle rack. Middle rack, 425. It's probably going to be 10 minutes. That's it. So that's in there. Now it's time to get working on the salmon. So let's clear this guy off. I don't even need a cutting board anymore after the onions. So since we're going to do this kind of funky onion thing, let's try this out. We are all experimenting at the same time here. All right. So all I'm going to do is try and get a slice of onion to rest on the salmon. I don't need it to be overly thick, but I don't want it to be overly thin. I'm cooking 4 pieces of salmon. I have 4 onions here, but part of the salmon is going to be tail portions. So I'm going to take a second onion here and probably cut a few more pieces of onion. If you end up not using it, it's totally fine to put in a Ziploc bag and save for another time. All right, so here's our onion. My knife out of the way here. I'm just going to pop out the outer ring on each one of these pieces. It's kind of the thickness you'd want for maybe not super thick onion rings, but regular sized ones that we're cutting these into. And I had some relatively small onions I was working with. There we go, and there we go. All right, so here's our onions. We can make like the volcano at Benihana now, one of those type things, right? My niece loves my shirt. I love my shirt too. Wait, which niece? Aaron. Okay. I would guess. All right, so here is our sheet pan. I'm going to lay the onion down on the pan. No rhyme or reason to what I'm doing here. All I know is that I have 8 pieces of onion that are whole like this, right? Time to bring the salmon over. I'm going to bring this down, and let's see what happens. Let me move these other onion pieces out of the way. I prefer using wild salmon over farmed Alaskan salmon because wild salmon actually comes from, well, if it's wild Alaskan salmon, it's from Alaska. If it is farm raised, it can be from anywhere. There's not necessarily anything, some of the farm raised stuff is being done in a ethical way, but I don't know. I tend to prefer the wild stuff a little bit better. All right, so here are our 4 kind of onion pairings, and here are 4 pieces of salmon. I'm going to take the pieces of salmon, flip them right upside down onto the onions. I'm not seasoning them. We're going to get all of that salt from the teriyaki sauce, so I do not want to over season this. If I was not using teriyaki sauce and I was doing maybe like a mustard and lemon juice or something like that, I would liberally season this. Here it is. These will kind of end up steaming from underneath with the onions. I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to dry the heck out of this skin. I'll make sure it's dry, dry, dry. Okay, I'm going to give my hands a quick rinse, and then I'm going to show you the last little step. While that's happening, I'm going to put the broiler on. It's just going to start warming up. Here we go. Last step. Buddy. Here's Buddy. Sit. Buddy, sit. He's being good today. All right. So I'm going to, I don't have a whole ton of room to work with here. So I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way. I'm going to turn this sideways. And for this last step, I'm going to take some butter. And I'm not going to go too nuts with it, but I am going to slice off a pretty reasonable amount. So here's the butter. At this point, I'm going to soften it with my hands for just a minute. Just kind of barely soften it. I don't want it, I can put it in the microwave. I don't want it out at room temperature for too long. I just kind of want it to get started. And then I'm going to take the butter and I'm going to rub it on the salmon skin. Trying to coat every little last bit of the skin with this butter because you need some sort of fat. Happy with that. Make sure I'm coating it all and I can actually see it melting on there. Step 2, I have a huge amount of butter. If you want to keep it, I would highly recommend butter over like olive oil or anything like this because the flavor of the butter is going to work a lot better with the teriyaki sauce than too much of that olive oil. Because we're trying to really marry these together. So now I'm going to put the pats of butter on top. This is going to go under the broiler. I want to keep it about 5 inches away. So let's see if we can get in here. So there's our asparagus. And now here goes our salmon. It's going to go right on under this broiler. So I'm going to babysit it a little bit. I don't use the broiler often, but the nice parts about that butter is as soon as I smell it, then I should check on it. Butter has this great quality of letting you know when it's getting too far along. So here's the rice. Here's the teriyaki sauce. We're going to check and see if we want to thicken it at all. Why not? Yeah, it's definitely just the sauce, so I'm going to thicken it a bit. Let's see where we are flavor-wise. Yes, 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 yes. As always, when using flour, cornstarch, tapioca, flour, anything, you want to add a little bit of water, not much, and then you add in your either flour, cornstarch, whatever it is, and make sure that you incorporate it. You want to make sure the water is cold, and that's what keeps it from getting lumpy. So I'm going to use probably kind of heaping, 1.5 teaspoons, let's call it. We'll make it a little thicker glaze. If you didn't put enough water in your cup, you can always add more. But as you work it, you're going to notice it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's all going in there, no problem. So I think I'm happy with that. That's going to go right in. I'm going to make sure the heat is up just a little bit, probably at medium. And we're going to make sure I incorporate the whole thing in here. It's going to turn the sauce a little cloudy. That's okay. Because we're really just trying to get the thickening quality working. Using flour, it'll be a little less cloudy than with cornstarch. With tapioca, I'm not that familiar with it, so I don't know how cloudy it would turn. I just know that it has a lot of the same properties with being able to thicken the sauce. So now I have a sauce that's kind of getting there. I'm probably going to actually add a little bit more because I want it to be more of a glaze than anything. See, I have it right here, a little bit of water. Not much. Another heaping teaspoon. I'm going to stir it all. I don't want any bits on the side. I want nothing that could be lumpy in this sauce. And that's going to go right in. As it heats up, it's going to get thicker and thicker. So we'll let that do its thing right now. I'm going to peek at the rice. We're going to grab a fork. And I'm going to check and see if we have enough water in there. And it looks like we do. Oh my goodness, this is awesome. So let's see if you can see this. So here's that start to the coconut rice, right? Like it is getting fluffed up here. I always want to use a fork when fluffing it because you can kind of come from underneath and aerate it. We never want to really smash it down. So texture-wise, it's fine. I could probably add a little bit more salt to it. And I remember I added a pretty good pinch and a half. I'm going to put just a little bit more. You could add a little bit of sugar if you want it to be super sweet, like a coconut rice pudding dish, but savory application, I'm going to keep it kind of more au natural. The other thing that's going to happen is the natural sugars in this flake coconut are going to come out once I finish it. This is going to be at the very end, and really it's going to take like 20 seconds under the broiler. So I'm not going to do anything until the very end with it. I can start putting stuff away. Put this cornstarch away, get it out of the way, get this coffee cup out of the way. Okay, so the rice is here. I'm going to turn that to off and let it sit. The teriyaki sauce is heated up and it's thickening. I'll make sure I don't ignore that. I'm going to take a quick peek now. Here, why don't you come down with me? We're all going to peek in the oven together at the same time. There's that salmon skin. It's starting to bubble up. It's getting super crispy. Yes, this is what we're looking for. I'm actually going to turn it just a little bit because it looks like the broiler is not cooking as evenly as I'd like to. So I'm going to take it, flip it around. Cook it there. The asparagus looks like it is done, so that's going to come out. I'll set this asparagus off to the side just a little bit. I'm going to grab one more. I'm going to grab just a little small, I have a little small pan that I'm going to wipe down. We'll do the coconut on that. Yeah, 6:40. Yeah, so my wife let me know that we're way over on time. Sorry, I talk too much and don't just work. So we're at 6:46. Everything is basically done. Now I'm just on this last step. I'm going to take some coconut, spread it around. I have not too crazy, just enough here. We're going to quickly brown that. The second I pull the salmon out, this is going in, and it's seriously going to be like 20 seconds and then out. So coconut spread out in the pan. I'm going to grab parsley here, because I'm going to take a little bit of chopped parsley and finish off the dish with it, and then we'll be done. So some parsley leaves. Move this off to the side. I'm going to take our parsley leaves and rinse them. Do a quick little chop on the parsley. I'm now getting that smell. The butter is telling me that we are just about done on the salmon. From this point that I get that smell, I'm going to give it about 25 seconds. That's my guess. So let's see where we are here. Everyone's nose is different, so you'll have to play with the timing a little bit yourself. Probably about 5 seconds right now. 3, 2, 1. Let's check it out. Yes! So crispy salmon skin. That looks great. I love the smell from the onions. That's there and done. This is here and done. The teriyaki sauce is, wow, super thick. We've created one heck of a glaze now. So now we've gone from a super runny sauce to something that is thick. And that's what that cornstarch did. And this will brush on really nicely onto that salmon. If you want a runny sauce, that's totally fine too. So that broiler's still on. Coconut's gonna go in. Lid's gonna come off of the coconut rice. I'm gonna add the parsley in right now because I know that coconut's gonna be ready in just a second. And I really meant it when I said about 20 seconds, so we have maybe 10 seconds to go. We're gonna get just a little bit of color on there. And here we go, let's check it out. Ta-da! Look at that. Perfect. So that toasted coconut's going to go right into the rice. I'm going to stir it all together. So I have toasted coconut and parsley and rice, coconut rice in here. And this will be a great accompaniment to the salmon. So that's it. It's time to plate. Let's do it. You ready? You ready? Yeah? Okay, let's do it. I always like starting off with a serving of rice. It's going to kind of off-center the plate just a little bit. The salmon is going to be next. So here's our piece of salmon with our rice. A little bit of the teriyaki sauce, or like I said, glaze. If you have someone that's not going to eat the salmon skin, you can always take this glaze and put it on the other side and serve it skin side down. No problem. Just know that if you serve it skin side down, any of the crispiness you've gotten from that skin is going to be gone pretty quickly. And then the last thing we're going to do is a little bit of asparagus. So here's our plate. Teriyaki salmon, coconut rice, and roasted asparagus. Hope you enjoy.